Chrisley Knows Best fans were met with a side of Grayson they hadn't seen before when they tuned into this week's episode of Savannah's podcast. Sadly, this wasn't the same gentle and sweet boy who wore his heart on his sleeve and worried about everyone. His parents behind bars chilled his heart and nurtured a bitter fire inside of him. And it resulted in what both Chrisley Knows Best fans and Savannah are considering to be some scary views on his temporary life. Grayson Chrisley shares scary views on his temporary life. While speaking on his sister's podcast, Grayson tossed the word temporary around a lot. He expressed that all of his relationships were temporary, his friendships were temporary, and even his life was temporary. Savannah was clearly uncomfortable with hearing Grayson's viewpoint on everything being so temporary. But Grayson doubled down, noting that he wasn't wrong, because no one lives forever. While speaking of relationships, Grayson Chrisley clarified the only thing that matters to him is himself and his family. He just doesn't have room in his heart for anything else right now. So, if he is in a relationship with a girl and the relationship ends, he admits that he just doesn't suffer from the breakup. Savannah admits she's uncomfortable with her brother turning off his emotions in this way. Grayson, however, proceeded to clarify that he's not saying he has no emotions. He's just expressing the fact that nothing will hurt as much as losing his parents did. So, he just can't seem to make himself care about anything else. In hindsight, the only good thing he says has come from this whole situation is he has stopped caring about other people and started putting himself first. He schooled his sister on the fact that their family is getting pity from no one because they are rich and famous. So, he doesn't understand why he should be bothered to stop and care about anyone but himself and his family. Grayson goes on to tell his sister there is nothing she can do to fix the situation or make it better. It is their new normal until his parents get out of jail. What do you think about the way Grayson kept throwing around the word temporary while talking about life and relationships during his sister's podcast? Did it concern you the way he kept saying his life was temporary? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. And keep coming back for more Chrisley news. Grayson Chrisley had always been known as the quiet one in the Chrisley family. The youngest of Todd and Julie Chrisley's brood, Grayson had grown up in the spotlight of their reality TV show, Chrisley Knows Best, but he rarely craved the attention that came with it. As he reached his late teens, Grayson had developed a keen interest in philosophy and existentialism, often retreating to his room to read books by thinkers like Albert Camus and Friedrich Nietzsche. This newfound passion began to shape his outlook on life in ways that both intrigued and worried his family. One summer evening, Grayson found himself sitting on the back porch of the Chrisley mansion, gazing up at the stars. The vastness of the universe and the fleeting nature of human existence weighed heavily on his mind. His father, Todd, noticed Grayson's pensive expression and decided to join him. "What's on your mind, son?" Todd asked, sitting down beside Grayson and handing him a soda. Grayson sighed, taking a sip of his drink before responding. "I've been thinking a lot about life lately, Dad. About how temporary everything is." Todd raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Temporary? What do you mean by that?" Grayson leaned back in his chair, looking up at the night sky. Todd frowned, trying to understand where his son was coming from. "Are you talking about our mortality? The fact that we're all going to die someday?" Grayson nodded. "Yeah, but it's more than that. It's the idea that nothing we do really matters in the grand scheme of things. We spend our whole lives chasing after success, money, fame, but in the end, it's all just temporary. None of it lasts." Todd was silent for a moment, considering Grayson's words. He had always prided himself on providing for his family and ensuring their success, but he hadn't given much thought to the philosophical implications of it all. "That's a heavy thought for someone your age," he said finally. "What brought this on?" Grayson shrugged. "I don't know. I guess I've just been reading a lot and thinking about life. It's like, we're all just playing a part in this grand play, but none of us know the script. We're all just temporary. Todd looked at his son with a mixture of pride and concern. He admired Grayson's intellectual curiosity, but he also worried that such deep thoughts might be weighing too heavily on him. You know, Gray, life might be temporary, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. The things we do, the relationships we build, they all have an impact, even if it's just for a short time. Grayson nodded, though he didn't seem entirely convinced. I get that, Dad. But sometimes it feels like we're just going through the motions. Like we're all living someone else's dream. Todd reached out and put a hand on Grayson's shoulder. Maybe we are, but that doesn't mean we can't make the most of it. Life is short, but it's also precious. We have to find meaning in the moments we have, even if they're temporary. Grayson smiled faintly, appreciating his father's attempt to comfort him. I know, Dad. I guess I'm just trying to figure out what that meaning is for me. Over the next few weeks, Grayson continued to explore his existential thoughts, often sharing them with his family. His siblings found his musings fascinating, though occasionally unsettling. Savannah, in particular, was both impressed and concerned by her younger brother's depth. One afternoon, as the family gathered for a barbecue, Savannah pulled Grayson aside. Gray, I've been thinking about what you've been saying. About life being temporary and all. It's kind of scary, but also, kind of liberating, don't you think? Grayson looked at his sister, surprised. Liberating? How so? Savannah smiled. Well, if life is temporary, then we should make the most of it, right? Do the things we love, spend time with the people we care about. It means we shouldn't take anything for granted. Grayson nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's just hard sometimes, you know? To find that balance between acknowledging the temporary nature of life and still finding joy in it. Savannah hugged her brother. We'll figure it out together, Gray. That's what family is for. As the days turned into weeks, Grayson began to find a new sense of purpose. He started volunteering at a local shelter, finding fulfillment in helping others. His philosophical readings continued, but he also made an effort to engage more with his family and friends, cherishing the moments they shared. One evening, as the Chrisleys sat around the dinner table, Grayson looked around at his family and felt a sense of peace. Life might be temporary, he realized, but that didn't make it any less beautiful. The laughter, the love, the shared experiences, they all mattered, even if only for a moment. Todd noticed the change in his son and smiled. Feeling better, Gray? Grayson nodded. Yeah, Dad. I think I'm starting to understand. Life might be temporary, but it's up to us to make it meaningful.